Hello and welcome back to another edition of Stager Insights. Today, my guest is a long-term friend and colleague, Boucher from Ottawa, Ontario. Hey, Debrah, how are you?
Great, Christine. How are you doing today?
I'm great, thanks. So thanks so much for agreeing to do this.
Hmm.
Stager Insights is always, I think, a good title because it wants to give stagers, decorators, people who are looking for an opportunity to build a business insight into our programs. And we have a very special program that you've developed specifically to help people called the Residential Renovation Project Manager. So I would like to have our conversation built around it. But before we get started, I'd like you to tell our listeners more about you and how we got to develop this program.
Certainly. So, Christine, I have more than 30 years of project management experience. And a lot of it was formed when my husband and I started flipping houses. And, every flip meant more opportunity for financially, but more opportunity to learn the project management business. From there, I joined the Ottawa Real Estate Investors Organization. And because I wanted to learn everything possible about renovating and doing investments. And then that turned into being the president of it. And from there, the springboard was at the same time. People were watching the DIY shows. It's almost like a tsunami of them. And, in half an hour, we could renovate our entire house. And, it was great. It was entertaining, but it was also frustrating because I was watching it not from an entertainment point of view, but I was thinking, oh my gosh, every time the project manager would meet with the homeowners, they were always, or it seemed to me, that they were always over-promising and under-delivering. Yeah. And I really felt that made a bad taste and it also set a stage that, well, this is what happens in the industry all the time, and that's not the case.
Yeah, it's interesting because all of those I was going to say HGTV because they're not the only channel, but they are the one that's most frequently talked about. But all of the programs that have sort of emanated from maybe 2010, fix your own deck, do your own staging, decorate your own house, and do your own projects. All of them are definitely entertaining and fun to watch, but they do a good thing in that they raise awareness of the practice and the things that need to happen. But they also, I would think, create a lot of concern for people who are considering having a project done. And, that was really the catalyst for you to create the program.
That's correct.
So maybe what you could start with by telling us is, what does a project manager do first?
Okay. Well, the project manager is really responsible for the entire project. So they're the glue that holds it together. So it's usually a professional who has had the experience as well as the credentials. And parts of the thing that they do, Christine, is the planning, the executing, and the closing of the project. And they can do it for homeowners, but they can also do it for organizations. And they actually manage the resources, the time, the budget. They can order materials, and then they do that all within the owner's, what they want, but also within a stipulated budget and time period. So when I look at what a project manager does, it's really leading. They're the leaders. They motivate the teams that they've selected for the project. They identify deliverables. When is the wood going to be coming in? They manage all of the different risks because every step of a renovation has its own risk. They manage that, and then they report to the main stakeholders. They keep them informed. They provide contingency plans if that's a requirement. So short,
yeah. Sorry. Okay. So not many people outside of our industry of staging know, but for those people, I wanted to just state, when a trained professional stager comes to help somebody prepare their house for sale, there is a myth and misconception that it's about quote unquote decluttering and decorating. And of course, it's not at all like that. We have to look at it with an objective eye to see how we can best guide our seller to get the most money for this big investment that they have. And so I know over the past 10 years in particular, stages have been recommending to sellers upgrading and renovating sometimes, but definitely upgrading kitchens and bathrooms, which could be anywhere from minor to major renovations. And many people think that because they have managed their own project in their own house, that they're able to do it for others. So two things would be, why would a stager want to enroll in the program, and what will they get out of that?
Okay. Well, there's a couple of responses there, Christine, is they're going to develop crucial skills specific to project management. And again, these skills could be leadership, communications, risk management, and budgeting. But they're developing skills that let them work better with the contractors or the different teams that they build to actually manage the project. But what the what homeowners are looking for right now, Christine, is they're looking for somebody with experience, but they also want the credentials behind them, because that's what the industry is demanding. And when you look at the opportunities that are there for someone who has the experience and the credentials, it's now opening up a much wider, more robust opportunity for them. So yes, they might be they're probably very, very good at managing the clients' renovations, but we really want to get them to earn more money. We want them to have a wider a range of clients, and we want to actually take them from managing home renovations to a much larger industry, which could be offices, it could be dental offices, it could be anything from where there's a lot of project management, like the heavy laden industries, and that is construction, it's engineering, and it's IT. And that's where a project manager who's taking this program can see themselves going, and the networking and the better collaboration that they would get from taking the course, because now they've expanded their array of influence.
So you mentioned compensation. So what kind of money are we talking about for a project manager?
Sure. Somebody who's just starting out in the industry with really almost no experience can feel comfortable earning $58K a year, and typically it goes up to between $130,000 to $150,000 a year as a project manager with experience and credentials.
Interesting, right? So obviously we have to talk about what would be the problems a stager, a decorator, or even a handyman who doesn't have this training. What sort of thing would they, what sort of trap would they fall into if they don't have this training?
Well, what ends up happening is they might have the skills to manage a more smaller project, but really what the course teaches is more effective project planning and execution. Again, really looking at the communication strategies that they may not have ever had in place. And what we're looking at is going from project estimating, budget contingencies. We want to look at the safety requirements that's involved in projects, as well as the requirements that the municipalities as well as the cities have, which is permits and bylaws, and also the conflict resolution. So really I feel that with the certification, and because it's coming from from you, the International Staging Business Training Academy. It's coming from a well-renowned, well-respected company, and so they're going out and they've got that immediate credibility, and that's something that a lot of other project managers can't offer.
Right. And we recently had a student who had that experience. He had flipped properties, he owned properties, and he was looking to expand his business and felt that having the designation for credibility was really important when he was face to face with the clients. So I think that was really insightful for us to learn that from him. And I think that is something that people need to consider. Yeah, sure, you might have experience in the field, but today, 93% of the decision to hire somebody is based on whether they trust you. And so having that outward demonstration of skill level approved, not by you yourself thinking, yeah, I can do it, and you can talk to the seller, but actually having that third party, it's about, I feel, it's about credibility and integrity, right? It's acknowledgement of the technical skill, but beyond just the work experience.
I also find, Christine, that project managers who take the course and get the certification through you are better at mitigating problems throughout the project, and because they're taught in the course, we teach how to maintain clear lines of communication with all the stakeholders involved, and that's from the homeowner right up to the different suppliers, the contractors, the subs, and all of the different trades. And that what this does is it ensures that everybody's on track every single day. Everybody knows exactly what they're doing, establishing those clear goals and objectives. What do we want to get out of this project, instead of maybe not having that definite planning. Conducting those regular checkups on a daily basis, and maintaining what's the issue today, how are we going to solve it, so that we can move forward and we're not being held back because there's an issue between maybe this trade or the product not being delivered on time, and just maintaining that really close eye on what's going on site.
So if somebody is looking at the program and say, what can I possibly learn in a 6-hour workshop that's going to give me this power to earn, more than what people average earn, but definitely the potential for 2 and 3 times what normally people would earn, what would our answer be to that? Like, what will they get out of that course? Right. So we know it's very disciplined modules throughout the 6 hours. And without going into, elaborate details of what you actually teach, maybe you can just give somebody an idea of that.
Okay. Well, definitely it's the credentials, but it's also the knowledge of the process, but it's conducting the regular I guess for us, leaving the course, we know what's important to have a successful renovation. And so we follow the, what we've learned in the course, and then we can put it into action. And I find, Christine, when somebody may not have that course, yes, they can still manage a renovation without too much problem. But what they're doing is they might be spending more time managing that renovation because it's not being managed quite as effectively.
Yeah.
And without the proper training, they may struggle on certain areas within that project management. So that's really what I want them to get out of this course is.
And confidence, right? Confidence comes from knowing. I know it's a gift you give yourself, but it is coming from knowing. So do real estate developers actually rely on project managers?
Oh, for sure. And the reason for that, Christine, is when you look at a real estate developer, it's a much different type of project. It's much more complex. there may be a lot of permits and working closer with the city officials for permits and bylaws.
Building inspectors and things like that.
Exactly. So
Yeah.
they know right away that is going to be one of the things. The other issue is that establishing those clear goals with the between themselves and the real estate developer, because we have to look at the real estate developer wants to fix it up and get rid of it, but we have to do it through establishing those clear goals. We want to again look at how can we make this renovation for the budget that we've been given, how can we make it run more smoothly, and so that the developer says, yeah, I'm getting a lot of value out of this. And then when we combine the background of the home stager who knows how to put those finishing elements together so that the newly renovated property appeals to a wider range of clients. So the combination of taking somebody who's in the home staging industry or even in interior decorating and combining that with that education, you end up being more robust and much more useful to your clients, because you're seeing the whole picture. You know what can happen. You've got that vision. You know what to do, and then you can turn around and help the clients market their home, and they end up in the long run making more money and selling the house for more money because it's appealing to much wider range of audiences.
And I think one of the points that you've made in the past when you and I have had discussions is often people, it's the same really for staging, the fee for getting the staging done is looked at as a loss of money. It's something that's going to cost them, when in fact, the fees that are paid out actually pay themselves in the savings and the lack of frustration and stress that you have to go through in any of those sort of projects.
Mm-hmm.
So in winding up our conversation today, then, is there anything in particular that you would like to talk about? Maybe some of I was going to say what sort of projects people have worked on after they've left the classroom. And I think one of the big important things to mention to our audience is that you actually support them after they've moved on from the classroom, right? They get that first project and it's scary first time around, even though you have the process that you've taught them. And I think process and structure is important for doing any of these types of jobs. And that's one of the things that you were able to give them, your 30 years plus experience of do this first and sort of A to Z of how to follow through on a project. So what are some of the fun ideas of, I mean, I know we talk about where to go to get the jobs. It's not necessarily a homeowner or a real estate agent, but what projects have we been involved with?
Oh, a lot of senior residences. That's where there's such an opportunity. The government, we all know that because of COVID, the government has identified that is an area where they're putting in a lot of money, and there is so much opportunity there for, qualified
Project managers.
Oh,
Yeah.
for sure. And it's interesting, Christine, when you were saying that, I provide support even after the course has been given. And before we met this morning, I was talking to, a graduate of the program this morning, and she was saying, this is a situation that I've come up against. What do you think is happening? Could you give me your opinion so that I can, have a better idea of how I should handle this? And within a 10-minute conversation, we both said, yeah, this is the situation that's going on. This is an approach you might want to take. And she was grateful because of that. And she said, yeah, I never thought of that. So
Right.
that's what happens is I never thought of that. And really, I just want to, I love to share what I know, because the students have that opportunity to work in senior residences. There's government and office buildings. You know, with the some of the government cutbacks now, they're doing more outsourcing, and this is an opportunity to work on a project for 1, 2, or even 3 years, and still you're treated as an outside project manager. But you get to work with a really wide array of different tradespeople. Again, you're always gaining more knowledge. So that's one of the areas. Again, we're looking at with all the different challenges that we are getting from the environment. So much damage with housing.
Yeah, which sort of dovetails into our eco program and
Mhm.
our biophilic decorating program. Really, like the whole wellness of people and buildings is really where the next decade is going to be taking. So it's pretty exciting to be involved in all of that. And then I know some of our students have worked directly with in real estate investors themselves. So they were flipping
Yes.
a property and a lot of sort of basic, one we would call basic, but also extensive projects. So it's pretty, I just find it a totally fascinating workshop. And I remember that first time I sat in on your program and I'm like, wow, every stager needs to know this. Like every stager needs to know this. It's really a pleasure talking with you.
Oh, thank you.
And I look forward to developing our courses together more as our industry grows and that whole wellness aspect comes into fruition with the house. It's going to become more standard. I know that we have talked about this, and today things that are happening at a luxury level are becoming builder standard within the next 10 years, and you need to be ready to be able to work in that environment. So
As well as anything that has to do with sustainability.
yeah,
That's just it's not even a nice to have. It's a requirement.
it's a requirement today. Yeah,
Yeah.
perfect. Well, thanks again so much for your time. I look forward to talking with you again in the future. Thanks
Thank
for
you so
joining
much.
me. Bye-bye.